Welcome, everyone. So we're going to continue to talk about very young children as our examples for how to love. And to begin here with our poem, in troubled times, it takes great concentration to align ourselves with grace instead of force, with love instead of fear. We begin by allowing ourselves to be loved along with all the rest of creation. And then we fall into that love and let that love flow through us into the world. So we talked in the last session about what the difference is between us and very young children. We could go on and on. There's many, many, many differences. But one of the differences that we really feel in terms of what we're talking about is that they have not yet developed their ego. They are developing an ego, but it is not fully in place yet. And so their truest self, their most alive self, constantly flows through. And I equate this with our soul. So the Christian scriptures record Jesus as saying, unless you repent, that is, change your inner self, change your old way of thinking, and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. And in other places, he says, the kingdom of heaven is already right among you. It's already here. It's within you. When we become like little children, we can feel that kingdom of heaven, which I equate with love. So, what is it about little children that we need to become? It's very simply to be open. All of the channels of our being have to be open to the flow of love. The flow in so that we can receive love, the flow out so that we can give love, and then the openness that it requires to trust that we are in love. There's only one obstruction to our openness to love, and that's our ego. The ego is our individual, personal, lifelong construction project. It tells us who we are and what the world is like. And no two egos in this room are alike. They're all personally constructed by us throughout our lifetime. And as I said a few sessions ago, our ego has gotten the wrong story, or it's gotten the story wrong. The ego is there to protect us and to keep us in line with the culture around us. And the ego continues to believe that the culture out there, the culture that we live in, you guys can look around and see what you think about the culture we live in, that culture out there is safer than the culture of love, than the kingdom of heaven. And when we were too young to take care of ourselves, it probably had a good point. We probably did need extra protection because we didn't know how the world works. We didn't know how to make our own best choices. But the problem with the ego, and especially the judge or the inner critic, which is the part of the ego that punishes or rewards us if we stay in line with what we think the culture wants from us, we outgrew the ego. However, the ego never outgrew us. So it is the ego part of us that is rooted in force instead of grace. We could feel it in ourselves when the inner critic attacks us. It's forceful. We can feel that it is pushing us to be something. So it's the ego rooted in force instead of grace. It's the ego that's rooted in fear. It's afraid of the world and what will happen to us. Rooted in fear instead of love. And in order for us to be rooted in grace and in love, the ego has to be able to take a back seat. And we have to find a way back to our soul, the part of ourself that's fully plugged in to love and to the whole universe of love. And we need to find a way to put our soul back in charge. Our soul is not fearful. We still have an intellect. We have an awareness. We can judge what is safe, what is healthy. We don't need this yammering part of ourselves, the judge, the ego, to guide us. Our soul can do that now, connected to our fully developed intellect. So what we do in our practice of surrendered presence relaxes the ego and brings our soul back to the forefront so that love becomes as real. And actually, when you begin living in this space, it becomes way, way, way more real than this culture around us. You can see, you can feel, you can experience how fake the culture actually is compared to the truth and purity of love. So let's practice together. So we begin by affirming the presence of love. We recognize that love is here, just like the air that surrounds us is here. We recognize that when we awaken to the presence of love, it begins to affect us. So as we go into our practice, we particularly welcome the effects of love. So we always begin by noticing what we are experiencing right now in this moment. This is a step to knowing ourselves. It's the first step in becoming present. So we simply notice whatever experience we're having in the moment. And name it silently to ourselves. And when we notice, we don't judge, we don't attempt to change anything. We simply notice. Now bringing our awareness into the body, the part of our being that grounds us. It allows us to experience and feel the rest of our being. So we begin by allowing love to flow in and to affect our feet. And our lower legs. Our knees. And our upper legs. We allow love to flow into our hips. Our pelvis. Our belly. And all the organs of the belly. Just allowing all of them to be bathed in love. Allowing love to flow into our chest. Into our physical beating heart. And letting love affect our shoulders. Our arms. And our hands. And then bringing our awareness to our tailbone. And imagining love flowing up from the tailbone through all of the spine. Radiating out to include all the muscles and the rib cage up the back. Coming up through the neck and the scalp. And then allowing love to come to rest on our face. And then seeing if you can notice any effect that love has upon you. You maybe notice yourself becoming more open. Now staying grounded in the body. Begin to include awareness of your inner landscape, and we begin with our heart. The heart as our feeling organ, and allowing love to flow into our heart. And simply noticing what's happening. Again, without judgment. Maybe it flows freely. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe we can feel our heart. Maybe we can't. Just stay open and noticing whatever it is that's happening for us. Always inviting love in. And then inviting love in, allowing love to affect our spirit. This is the aliveness of ourselves. Flow, the energy, the vibration, what bubbles up in us. What happens when love comes in contact with our spirit. And then our mind. Allowing love to flow into our mind and not imagining that the mind is contained by the cranium. That's way too small. Allowing our mind to be as large as it wants to be. Letting love fill that. Noticing how it affects our thoughts. And now experiencing ourselves as one whole being, that we can feel our body filled with love, our hearts, our spirits, our minds affected by love, all here now. This is you in love, present in love. Staying deeply grounded in this feeling. Bring your awareness to your feet, where they're coming into contact with the floor, or with your body, where it comes in contact with what it's seated upon. Beginning to notice that it is pulled into the earth. Beginning to notice the way the earth is holding you. As adults, we believe our job to be to hold ourselves. And we do hold ourselves. You can notice it in the tensions that build up in the body and in the mind and in the heart. In this stage of our practice, we stop holding ourselves and allow ourselves to be held. First of all, by the earth, because we can all trust gravity. And then just noticing what happens in your being as you trust gravity to hold you. The natural response to trusting being held is to relax. Relaxation is another step towards openness. And then playing with, experimenting with, allowing love to hold you as well. To see if we can develop a trust that we don't have to hold our hearts, our spirits, our souls, that love has always got us. We can let go. So remaining grounded in your sense of presence, in love, in your sense of holding. Include an awareness of your breath as it flows into the body and back out again. For several rounds of breath, doing nothing but observing, noticing. See if you can notice how open the breathing channels are, how easily, for most of us, air flows in and back out again. And that is the natural flow of all of nature to receive and to let go. The ego, however, is not natural, does not naturally let go. So we have to practice. And recognizing we're not practicing only letting go, we are practicing receiving and letting go. We're practicing being in a natural flow of love. And again, noticing if you are developing a sense of openness in your being. You're developing a flow of the channels in being open, the channels out being open. And trusting that this is love. And then following the breath all the way out. letting it carry you into complete surrender. So we let go of any instruction, any thought, anything other than simple being in love. With enough practice, this is the point at which we can feel what we're actually feeling is that the ego falls away. We can experience our deepest and truest self when we begin to feel around here. We can feel our openness. We can feel our ability to love. We can feel how real this is. Thank you so much for practicing with me and supporting my own practice. I love you all.